Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein. This episode is a tribute to the late, great Jerry West. Last month, Jerry was honored by the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame with his unprecedented third enshrinement, this time as a contributor. He was previously enshrined as a player and as an executive. It was a bittersweet weekend as we all missed Jerry, but at the same time celebrated him. Jerry West is synonymous with NBA basketball. We all know he was the inspiration for the NBA logo itself, but he was much more than that. He was a fierce competitor as a player, a shrewd and uncanny genius as an executive, and honoring him for a third time as a contributor to the game was definitely appropriate and well-earned. Jerry meant a lot to me as a young sports photographer and throughout my career. His wife Karen and sons Ryan and Jonnie have always been gracious, and I consider them all friends. It was fitting that Jonnie accepted his dad's honor on stage in Springfield with a stage full of Hall of Fame Lakers from the historic eras Jerry West touched. We all know that one significant Laker was missing, and I know Kobe would have loved to have been there to celebrate the man who brought him to LA. On this episode, I was able to sit down with Jonnie West to reflect on his dad's legacy, as well as with some of the Hall of Famers who loved him and he loved back. Enjoy this tribute episode to the legendary Jerry West, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. Well, I'm here with Jonnie West, a guy I've known literally his whole life. Jonnie, you're here presenting your dad, Jerry West. Talk about that as an experience, as a moment for you and your family.
Yeah, something that's for sure going to be emotional, but in talking to a lot of people throughout this, like one of the things that has really hit me is it should be emotional, right? Like it's the impact that he had not only on my life, but a lot of people's lives. It should be hard.
Yeah.
But fun weekend. Obviously, wish circumstances were different, but just be fun to spend time with family, spend time with everybody that's going to be here. And I'm looking forward to it.
Well, your dad was such an impactful person to so many people, but to me personally, first of all, I was scared to death of your dad when I was a young photographer. Because, he had this aura about him, and the first time I ever photographed him, I remember going up to the office at the Forum. He had that little teeny office, and Mary Lou was the gatekeeper. And she took one look at me. She said, "Oh, who's this kid coming up to waste Jerry's time?" But he could not have been more accommodating. And it was honestly like a pivotal, almost life-changing moment for me. Yeah. Because I was sweating bullets, and he goes, "Take your time, kid. I got stuff to do. Let me know when you're ready." It was really amazing, and it just continued throughout his entire career. It was the Lakers, and he went to Memphis, and then the Warriors and Clippers, and he used to sit right behind me at the Clippers every game. I mean, how great is that?
Yeah. No, I think exactly what you said is something that a lot of people feel, but as just as you described it, as soon as you got to know him, he had this amazing ability for people to let their guard down and be exactly who they were, because that's who he was. Yeah. And he was a very comforting person, just somebody who really cared about people and building actual relationships with people. And like I said, it's, feeling that after his passing and just the impact that he had on, you can name anyone, and he had an impact on them.
Yeah, I mean, everybody here had some connection to Jerry one way or the other, and it's just incredible. I mean, I'm going to miss him. I miss him already, I'm sure, your family. It's just, it was such a shock. Yeah. But I wanted to talk about... I want to talk about his impact with Kobe. Kobe revered your dad, obviously, and he saw something in this 17-year-old kid in Lower Merion High School who nobody really had ever heard about on the West Coast, and wanted to bring him in. And now you're in a similar position of having to judge talent. Like, how much of that have you inherited from your dad?
I think just naturally, growing up around the game and spending as much time as I did as a kid around him, at Laker practices, Grizzly practices, and then, now working for the Warriors, it's, one, it's hard not to have some of that rub off on you. And it's, I think one of the reasons why, like, I was really interested in basketball because he never pushed me to play or be a part of basketball. The type of personality that he has, I had, and I think if he did push me, I probably wouldn't want to have played or to be involved. But he was, it was a lot of fun, especially when we moved to Memphis too.
But could you see close up? Because by then how old were you in Memphis?
I started high school when we moved to Memphis. So I was 13. Right. That's when, like, I really fell in love with that side of basketball. Obviously wasn't in a position to where I could start being a scout and working it, but I spent so much time around him during the summers, draft workouts, all the way through the draft, free agency, everything. And that's where I really fell in love with that side of basketball.
It's so interesting because AC Green talked about how he went to Oregon State, definitely under the radar, Division I school in the Pac-10 at the time, but that your dad just, like, zeroed in on him. Like, there was something about him that even he didn't even realize that he had. I mean, it's got to be some kind of God-given talent or something.
I think recognize. Like talking about AC and even some of the other guys on the Showtime team, one of the things that I always talked to him about was kind of how a team was like a puzzle, and every year it was something different. He always talked about, I know he talked about that to a lot of people, but each team, every season was a different puzzle, and sometimes the puzzle pieces fit, sometimes they didn't. I talked to Pat the other day, and Pat was talking about when he brought Michael Thompson in, and obviously Kareem was towards the end of his career, and they were really struggling with Boston and guarding Parrish and McHale, and Pat was concerned about it, and talked to my dad, and he's like, Pat, don't worry, I got it handled, and he brings in Michael Thompson, and then not elevated, but elevated their team and kind of opened up a couple more years of that championship run.
Sure. And Bob McAdoo talked about that
Bob
too.
McAdoo,
And then, fast forward to 2008, he brings in Pau Gasol, who, became a two-time champion, playing next to Kobe, who elevated his game to the level he didn't even think would be possible.
So that's
right?
It's funny you brought that up because it was right after his time in Memphis, so he wasn't actually. Everybody thinks he was involved with the Lakers.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
He was in between working in because of the connection. People always think like, oh, he had a hand in it. But he actually,
you're right. That's what I thought. Yeah,
but no, it's Pau was obviously a huge driver of those Laker championship teams and fit so well, but.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I know you and your wife are expecting. Maybe by the time this comes out, you will have your second child. How's it going with McKenna, and how's Michelle?
Everything's good. McKenna's very excited
How old
to be.
Is she now?
4.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah, she's very excited to be a big sister.
Yeah, I bet.
Their little brother on the way. So
yeah, that's great.
Hopefully he doesn't come too early, but
is he going to be swinging a club like McKenna did as like a toddler? That was pretty amazing.
I don't know. Michelle and I have not really pushed her to do anything. She's naturally been interested in sports and tennis and golf for the two big ones, but hopefully I might nudge him a little more.
Well, you need a golf buddy. So, listen, Johnny, thanks so much. Congrats to you and your family, your mom.
Thank you.
Dear friend of mine, and as well as you and your family, everybody. And it's a wonderful tribute to your dad. Wish obviously he was here, but as the only person to go in and inducted 3 times to the Hall of Fame, it's just, it's well deserving, of course. And if anybody was going to accomplish that, it's Jonnie West.
It's again, it's going to be an emotional weekend, but it's an amazing honor. Not only for him, but for our family and for us to be here to represent him is special.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Always great to see you.
And I landed at the airport in L.A., and who's waiting on me? Mr. West. And so now
he picked you up personally?
Yeah, so now I know it's real.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm like, this is And so that whole time, basically, it was just really getting a chance to do an interview, but also at the same time, it was really getting a chance to know him, and he get the chance to know me. And I was, what can you say? I mean, he had to force words out of my mouth, but I've loved him since that very first day, honestly, because he took a real interest in me as a person. And that was so cool. He wanted me to excel in basketball, yes, but he also wanted me to find a good home, be in the right kind of neighborhood. Right. So he made sure that happened. And he wanted me to meet his financial advisor. He made sure that happened. And I stayed with that guy, till the guy didn't want any more of me. Because I said, he's good enough for Mr. West, you're good enough for me.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, awesome dude, awesome.
I met Jerry when I was 17 or 18. I happened to be at some camp with him. He was in the league, and he was, getting close to the end. But we had a scrimmage game, and I was in high school, and he came up to me afterwards, and he said, son, you got the strangest shot I've ever seen. But he said, don't change it because you make it.
Interesting.
So he saw something when I was a teenager.
Well, the first time I was in his presence was on the telephone. And he called me that morning, and I was about to go work out, and my phone rang, and I was staying with my mom. I just got drafted by the Clippers, and I'm still trying to work out a deal with them. And Jerry West calls me, and he said, young man, this is Jerry West with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I said, yeah, right.
Really?
I did. I was like, yeah, right. I was like, man, who is this, man? He said, young man, this is Jerry West. And then I was like, oh, he's serious. I said, oh, okay, I'm sorry, Mr. West, how you doing? He said, I'm good. We're trying to make a trade for you today. And he said, we've been trying for a couple of weeks, and if this trade doesn't happen by 2 o'clock today, it's not going to happen at all. And it's like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so, I tell my mom, who's the ultimate, optimist. Yeah. And she said, well, he'll call. I said, well, I can't go work out. I got to stay at home. I got to, wait and see if he calls. 2 o'clock comes around, nothing. 2:30 comes around, nothing. So I tell my mom, I'm still a Clipper. Let me go work out. And I'm about to go outside to go to my car. And my mom runs outside and says, telephone. I go back in the house. And I said, hello? And it's like 2:45. Young man, this is Jerry West. Congratulations. You are now a Los Angeles Laker.
Wow.
And happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my first contact with the logo.
That's amazing.
On the telephone.
The first time I met Jerry, it was not on the phone.
Yeah.
It was after I had been drafted. They wanted me to come out and do a physical before they actually drafted me. So it was 1982. Yeah. I fly out to L.A., the airport is under construction, as it is now, because of the '84 Olympics. Okay. And Jerry West pulls up in a 944 Porsche. I've never seen a Porsche in my life. And I'm like, this is the GM? In a Porsche?
I love it.
And I met him. He drove me around the city. We went to a little place called Angie's in Brentwood. Pat Riley and Bill Burker met there. We had lunch. Yeah. And that was the reason my career is what it is and what it has been. It's because of Jerry West drafting me and keeping me a Laker most of my career.
Jerry West was always very kind, soft-spoken, but very sharp.
Yeah.
I really liked him a lot. I loved when he was the general manager for the Lakers. Yeah. And he was always very kind. And I think when you talk about men in basketball versus women's basketball, men who really get it, they just understand his basketball. And that's what I loved most about Jerry West, that he would talk about, how great we're doing and love the way, my footwork in the paint, or just, say comments about how well I was doing personally, which I'm like, oh, wow, Jerry West actually watched me play basketball,
That's awesome.
So I think I have always really admired Jerry West. Obviously, he's the logo. Yeah. You can't win on, Y2K without Jerry West. Like, my son is obsessed with everything Lakers, and he was like, Jerry West is the best player to play with. But I think he just impacted the game in such a way, like, people don't realize how fierce of a player he was. And because he always seemed so soft-spoken and just in the background and never needing a lot of attention, but he was such a classy guy too. So I'm really lucky that I got a chance to see the Lakers and the organization.
He was a perfectionist.
Yeah.
On and off the court, and he really ingrained in me, the idea of being a professional, what it means to be a professional, not just on the court, but the totality of it. Because at UCLA, they kind of shielded us from the media, so we didn't I didn't get a lot of experience with the media. And you know, he would talk about, you know, watch who you associate with, so forth and so on. I mean, every other week he would call me in the office, and it was important to him. He stayed on it.
Wow. And
then he pointed out some things on the court as well that were invaluable about, you know, always centering the ball and you know, staying in balance. But he was, to me personally, that's how he impacted me the most.
But then I spent 32 years with the Lakers. So I had 32 years of Jerry West, plus, you know, so it's actually 40 years I've known the man.
Wow.
You know?
Amazing.
And I've told people it was more important to me to get Jerry's approval than to win rings.
Yeah. Really, Gary? Wow. That says a lot.
Because I had so much respect for the man. And, you know, I wrote that book in 2019. And I likened him to Diogenes, you know, the Greek guy that's walking around during the daylight with a lantern.
Right.
And everybody thinks he's crazy, you know? And they're asking him, why do you have a lantern during the day? And he says, because I'm looking for one honest man, okay? If he found Jerry, okay, he wouldn't have needed the lantern. You know? That's how much respect I have.
Jerry was always there for all of us. And, you know, I like to think not only were we Jerry Buss's kids, but Jerry West's kids. And Jerry was myself, Byron, James Worthy, Kobe, A.C. Green. So, you know, him passing on, got to be there for him because he was always there for us, whether it be on the court or off the court. Jerry was just always lending a hand. If he saw something in your game, he'd come to practice and pull you to the side and kind of tell you about it. But as we all finished our career and we went on to do whatever it is after basketball, and I'm glad I was able to stay close to basketball through the Laker organization, got a chance to spend time with him. Jerry helped me in my off-court life, you know, going through transition periods as far as from player to a civilian or citizen. And Jerry was always there for all of us. And now that he's gone and his family came up to me and asked, I got to be there for him and for them.
Jerry is the guy who saw that. And gave me opportunity. And then, you know, what I like about Jerry, he was honest. He was a straight shooter. He was, even though when I retired and became a GM for Sacramento Kings, he was the first guy I called, you know, for advice, you know, so he was great.
And he was a mentor for me as a player. He always helped me on the court, where to be, when to catch it, when to be ready. He really helped me improve. I felt great playing with him on the court. And then, of course, you know, 10 years later, you know, he's pushing me through the door, telling me, you can do this. You can do this.
Amazing. Big thanks to Jonnie West and everyone who participated in this tribute episode to Johnny's dad, the legendary Jerry West. We miss you, Jerry. Thanks for tuning into this episode and for continuing to support the Legends of Sport podcast. Please tell all your friends to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legends of Sport, and our Instagram at Legends of Sport, and my photography can be found on Instagram at ADB Photo Inc. Big thanks as always to our producer Carlin Barker and our editors Sean Gosser and Addison Xiao. Thanks again to all our loyal followers, and we'll see you next week for another great episode on the Legends of Sport podcast.